Yes. In summary, that's exactly what happened in Rio. Now I'm still here with my panel of news reviewers, and the Member of Parliament for Homo Bay, Bwana Peter Kaluma, has just joined us. And probably we start with you, Bwana Kaluma, because I understand you've filed a petition to have CS Wario sent home.
Yes, thank you, Fred. We have a petition in Parliament to have the CS go. As you know, whether we are speaking about the National Olympics Committee, whether we are talking about these local federations, they all fall under the sports ministry. And there is a minister representing the president in that ministry. So we may be talking about the internal restrictions in terms of how far the minister can interfere with the local federations, the Olympic Committee and others. But ultimately, those sectors are under its charge. And it is very bad when you see sports being taken for granted in Kenya. You know, sports across the world is a big industry. We were talking about the amount of money that Manchester United spent on somebody like Pogba the other day. We are talking about the amount of money a single individual like Lionel Messi, like Cristiano Ronaldo, and in a month. You saw the tax issues way back in Spain. And so the seriousness with which countries like Spain take sports, to an extent that even a world icon like Messi had to be imprisoned, although allowed to serve it outside there. They don't care about it. This is a big industry. This is a big money industry. But we've been succeeding on sports largely because of the individual talents of our athletes, of our sports persons. Not that we've taken this industry as a sector we should be investing in. As a sector we should properly regulate and ensure efficiently works. So when we look at what is happening in the sports sector, when you hear that the minister is going to Rio with 3 bodyguards because of insecurity, what do those bodyguards know about Rio? We have our own mission in Rio. We have our embassy in Brazil, and we have a security, attaché there. We can liaise with the local security apparatus, back in Rio to ensure that the security of the persons of our people out there are protected. I want to say that whatever we are saying, I don't want to say much. We have a petition, you're going to deal with it, but if it is about incompetence, I think Wario is so incompetent it amounts to a gross misconduct, and it is an undue burden to the nation, to the economy. I mean, when you look at the athletes, struggling in the manner they did, and yet these are people whose excellence, join us together. I remember when we had post-election violence in 2008. That day I was in some small, club or pub in Dagoretti Corner. For one, you see Kenyans forgetting, the hatred they had for one another, the killings going on, and everybody is cheering when Kenyans win. So really, this is a matter for which action has to be taken. I've seen this impressed and other issues. We need documentation so that we can process, the going out of everybody involved in this fiasco, not just the minister. Yes. The minister, of course, will be sorted out in Parliament, hopefully by tomorrow. The petition for his removal will be there. We have the signatures of a huge number of MPs already. We've just been bidding time to see what more is under the carpet.
Bwana Joseph Manje, yes. Is your signature among those ones in the petition? Are you also pushing for the removal of CS Wario?
I have not seen the petition. Maybe he did it.
You can get one more signature here for that.
Let me say, I will read the petition itself for how it is stated. But also, you have to know they also performed very well. They are #1 in the whole of Africa. Yes. So if you punish somebody who has made the team to be #1, then also you have to check what you're punishing. Because I believe, apart from the bad part of it, there was a good part of it. We have to identify who went wrong. For example, if that list was big is not an issue, because you need also a big cheering squad in the team. But who went? You need definitely, of course, when our flag is sung in a foreign country, you need people to appreciate that so that we can see Kenyan. The issue is who went, But because if you went with 3 bodyguards, then that is wrong. But if you went with a Kenyan who is real Kenyan elsewhere, it's not a very big issue, because we have to have some people accompanying this.
Like your wife.
No, the wife, you see, that becomes another issue. You can put the wife there. You have to understand this list. You can put the wife there only for the list to go to the embassy to show the people, the group of people that has gone to another country. It happens, for example, if a dignitary is moving with another member, you can list in the list. But when it comes to payment, the ministry cannot pay. Actually, the accountant in particular ministry cannot pay for somebody who is not a worker there. You see, and some of these documents are paid after. All right, and there are those people who scrutinize, who traveled. So if you don't have, for example, a number, you can't get impressed from that particular ministry. So being in the list does not automatically mean your flight was paid. But that does not mean I cannot travel with you because I can pay for your flight. Then when we go to the hotel, I pay the hotel as a member of parliament or somebody else. So to be in the list by itself is not indicative. You have to make an extra step and you see, was this particular person paid for by the state, and he's not a state officer. That is where the issue is, and that's where there has to be investigation. But having said that, when you travel with 3 bodyguards on the other side, then that is wrong, because they will not work. Of course, they can't go with their guns in the flight in the first place. You have to organize your security from the other side. You can talk to our embassy in Brazil, and they organize for your security. So you need 3 other gentlemen, Kenyans, not your bodyguards, because your bodyguards will protect you only in this country. They don't have the dynamism of Brazil, so they will not protect you. So that by itself is wrong, and also I can vote because of that.
Yes. Do you agree that we probably needed a cheering squad in Brazil?
I think, Honorable Manja, in all fairness, really, just the mere fact that you approve the list that has your wife, the intention in itself is extremely wrong. And you subsequently gave her a role within the team, yet she's not even connected to the committee or any officials. So that in itself, so you cannot say that, look here, we performed well. No, we performed well because of our prowess and our commitment. Those guys really suffered, and I'm happy. You remember the whistleblower who whistleblow this matter, Anzra, who was actually the coach for sprints, and the chief de Monsieur said that guy was not part of the delegation. Yet you can now see clearly the guy was actually part of the delegation. So really, serious action has to be taken, and it's not only on the minister. If you can have a PS bringing the brother to be part of the delegation, a chief de Monsieur bringing the wife. The other thing, which I don't know how you're going to deal with it, Kaluma, all these members of parliament, they earned in excess of 3 million Kenya shillings per diem. They were there for 21 days. Kaluma will tell you, 21 days, if you're going to Rio, it's actually nearly 4 million Kenya shillings. So 216 million Kenya shillings being spent for the Rio trip, yet you can see the way our athletes were suffering. You hear they were sharing rooms. I hear their rooms were sold to to the Russians. So clearly there is a bigger problem, and I think we cannot pass the buck. It has to go straight to the cabinet secretary and definitely to the PS as well.
In our discussions earlier, in all those weeks when all this shenanigans started and we started hearing of what was happening in Rio, we said at least there are some members of parliament who have gone there, and I'm sure they're going to see something and come back and recommend some, make some recommendations.
Clearly, they didn't see anything.
Yeah, they didn't see anything wrong with all that.
But you see, But you see, to me, allow me to defend the fact that members of parliament went there. Because, for instance, if I told the remedy is to kick out the sports CS, of course that matter will be tabled before the National Assembly. And because some of the delegation consist of members of parliament, they will be able probably to give us the facts as they were there.
Which they have said there was nothing wrong.
No.
They've seen no evil.
No, but you see, but you see, this scandal has been, it has been exposed just now. Meaning most likely they have not seen that list. Because to me, when you look at the facts which have been presented by your reporter, it appears clearly there's a major scandal. There's no one who can defend those allegations. For instance, we have seen a person going there with a son. We have seen a CS going there with 3 bodyguards. We have seen situations where another senior person is going there, I don't know, with his, I don't know who. To me, it doesn't make sense at all. In any event, here we are talking about 87 sportsmen. And then we are talking about a delegation which is not going to actually do anything, of about 97. And there, to me, prima facie, there's a very strong case against the people who are in charge of that event.
Yeah.
And again, when you see...
The did not see that as a problem.
No, most likely they hadn't seen those documents. Surely, as a member of parliament, as at that time, no one can give you that document. You only came to know, most likely, out of your effort, that expose. No one, I'm very happy with that expose. It shows that indeed there was a lot of mismanagement in that trip. And by the way, it appears these guys gobbled a lot of money. For instance, I have seen they were traveling in business class. I'm imagining from here up to Rio, going by business class is about $500,000 or even 600,000 one person. So all those guys just go in business class, and most likely the sports people are going economy class. Is very unfair. And to me, I agree. So far, all factors remaining constant. The CS ought to answer some questions, because it's very...
Do you agree that he should be sent home?
Well, it is wrong at this stage for me to pass judgment. I also need to hear his side of the story. He has not been interviewed. I think that
he gave a statement last week. He issued a statement. It was live on TV actually, and explained that there was no problem in Rio.
No, but to me, I would want him to answer the specific issues that have been raised today by your reporter.
Yes.
For instance, the situation why did he go with 3 bodyguards? How come the big guys there were allowed to go with their children, with their wives? Where is it that these guys are traveling on business class and sports people are traveling on economy? To me, those are the issues I would want him to answer specifically.
But before we come to Bwana Kaluma, you've seen this over and over again. When you're in charge of a certain project, program, even a ministry, a cabinet ministry, and a scandal emerges within that ministry, and in Kenya no one really wants to take that responsibility and say, okay, fine, I'll step aside as investigations continue. Right now we're seeing members of parliament here already defending the CS and saying, no, it doesn't need to go right now, let's investigate first. How do you investigate while the CS is still in office?
You know, Kenya, we have a problem. The doctrine of I'd rather die than resign still resides within ourselves, which is very sad. In all fairness, really, our whole sitting minister, who now apparently is the one who is investigating the issues of Olympics, had 7 staff aides going for Olympics. The PS had to enlist the brother as a... So clearly, sometimes it is honorable to say, really, let me step aside as we look into these issues. Because, and Honorable Manje, if we manage this Olympics better, we would have done extremely well. I think there's some races we lost sheerly on mismanagement. So, even though we emerged top because of our individual talents, and our lack of planning and proper management does not necessarily warrant a pat on the back for officials. We just respect the fact that our athletes did so well within those circumstances. So really, I think there has to be serious action taken, so that for purposes of the next election, for the next Olympics, and any other national sort of sporting event, then people have to actually be serious.
Yes.
Let people take plea.
But you see, also, you people, you should be a bit careful. We have been doing very well in athletics, all right? And the people who have been helping us to manage this, if you remove them, suppose there is a conspiracy to remove this group that has performed all along. Why are we not performing in football? Why are we not performing in the so-called organized areas? So we should not be looking at the negative part throughout. How did we manage to be number 1 in Africa if it is that bad? So we should also look at the positive part of it, because if it comes out this is the truth, the way it has been brought by the media, then it means we could not have performed that way, because it's like the situation was worse. It's like these people are not even eating. But you see, you cannot perform if you are not eating, you see. So let's say there were some people who mismanaged to some extent, but not 100%. Because at the end of the day, everything went smoothly until after, when whatever it was closed, when the hotel,
Olympic Village was,
when the village was closed. That's where the issue came in.
But that was just one issue, because there are other issues which included the issue of the Nike sports kits that they provided for the athletes, and each was to receive about 8 sets, and they only got to receive 1. And some of those kits were found in knock offices. Yeah,
that's now the problem. We are saying we can identify these specific issues, because in every organization you will have some people who are negative in that organization, people who are not supporting the organization, some people who have self-interest. All right, but also let's say it is a bit unfortunate when you spend a lot of taxpayers' money without feeling how other Kenyans are feeling. Because why should you travel first class all the way if the athletes are traveling the other class? If you can join them, if the main idea is teamwork, and maybe you are a junior person, why should you travel first class? You should realize what it means. All right, you should give them morale. For example, Rudisha and the others should get even the first class if that is the case. But having said that, also if you are an athlete, you need real support. You need people to support you. It's not just a matter of you going alone and you put boots and go. You need some people to support you. All right, like the international athletes, those who are in the world, they get many people who are supporting them.
They travel with their coaches.
Their coaches, all that, the assistants and all that. All right, but the issue that I would like us to concentrate on, who was footing this bill? If you, for example, he put his son in that, was the son part of the delegation? Was he paid for by the state? Because that is what is important. But there is nothing bad if you say, I'm going to Rio and I want to go with my son, and I will pay everything. Even that flight, I pay for it. He goes his own way, but wherever he will go, I will take charge because he's still my son. So the issue is who paid for that.
Yes. Bwana Kaluma, clearly your petition is not receiving unanimous support even in Parliament. You can see these 2 members of Parliament are not with you on this one.
They do
no,
not.
I haven't said that per se on my own part.
I hear Honorable Kangata to be, with me, because he's saying he'll want to look at the reasons, and he says he believes there are aspects of, this particular, thing that needs to be investigated, and for which the minister needs to answer. But let me clarify why we are going for the minister or the cabinet secretary in the first instance. As members of Parliament, we do not approve the appointments of the people down there. If you see the ministry going with over 24 members of staff, then there is a problem. Ours is limited to the minister and possibly the principal secretary. And I can tell you that when I was moving, I did not have information on the principal secretary, but there is opportunity to amend to include as many people as possible that the Parliament can reach to. Let me make a distinction here. Honorable Maja is agonizing over the issue of corruption and corrupt practice. When you are talking about paying money directly, or money being used to fund the travel of a relative of an official, you are talking about corruption. But when you are talking about a person occupying a list which ought to have been left free for those people who genuinely and meaningfully support our athlete, that is a corrupt practice. We are not saying that if you want to go, your wife may not go with you for those sandy beach issues. Your son may not go with you. But really, let not your son be on the list. That should be occupied by people who are going to support our sports persons to achieve better. We have had so many problems. And to us, it is a corrupt practice. And a corrupt practice has no limit. Fred, you've asked the question, why don't people step aside? I think time has come, and I think we'll have time to agree with Honorable Kangata, that we entrench the idea of stepping aside into our laws. Because for now, we've left it as some, moral obligation. We are only saying you can be interdicted, you can be suspended, but of course when a criminal, court case starts against you as a public officer, or you can choose to resign. So we've left a lot of this to the, volition of the individual. Time has come to have this stepping aside put there with meaningful requirements that if you genuinely step aside and the investigations confirm you are not involved in a fundamental way,
You'll be reinstated.
You'll be reinstated. You see, the challenge we've had with the Jubilee government, of course, is that they say you'll be reinstated. But you know the fate of, the Minister Kosgei, former Minister, Chirchir. And these are the things that are, scaring people also from, voluntarily stepping aside. I think time has come when we say, if a person, agrees to step aside, if truly we confirm he's not culpable, he should, resume his duties. Not that they are changed, because that discourages people who may be fearing, once I step aside, I'm gone forever.
Okay, and on the back page, just before I come to you, on the back page of the Standard, the headline there is, "Arrest Kip Keino? No, not now." Now, police will, however, ask him to share what he knows. This, they say, celebrated Kipchoge Keino, the president of the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, which is being blamed for all this mess. Will not be arrested when he returns to the country, police say. Yesterday, detectives at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations said Dr. Keino would only be asked to share information he may have concerning the mismanagement. The move comes even as speculation rose that the legendary athlete would be arrested after his colleagues in NOC, that's Stephen Arapsoi, the one we saw in the story, James Chacha and FK Paul, were taken into custody in different police stations in Nairobi following the Rio mess. This could actually affect senior individuals like Kip Keino, which is a bit sad.
Should be arrested.
We just saw him being given a medal by the International Olympic Committee president when the Olympic Games was starting in Rio.
First, let me agree with Honorable Kaluma and disagree at the same time when he says that when somebody agrees to step aside. I think in Kenya, that is where the problem is. People do not agree to step aside. So what I would urge Mheshimiwa Kangata and Kaluma and Manje here, we need to create a threshold for stepping aside, so that it is a forced stepping aside. People do not agree to step aside. So we actually need to ensure that we entrench that in our law, so that we say, look here, these are the threshold. Because we also don't want to deal with hearsay. That, like for instance, we've seen Waihiga is in the list and yet he was never paid for. So again, it's not about somebody agreeing to step aside. Let us put a framework that would actually force you to step aside, so that if you meet a certain threshold in terms of corruption, then you automatically step aside. So it is not a question of your conscience. It is not about your value system. It's not about your moral obligation. Then it is a legal issue, because clearly that doctrine of I'd rather die, it's still very fresh in our minds. Now, Mheshimiwa Manje, I respect him very much. But when you say, I agree that you can pay for your wife, or your son, or your girlfriend for that matter, there's nothing wrong, then why put them in the list of government delegation? You remember one of the key problems that we've had in Rio is that even a coach could not access the village. Anza was brought back because he used an accreditation of an athlete, yet he was a coach. He didn't have. Now you find people who had those accreditations were guys who were not even part of the team. The guy was brought back because he couldn't even access food, he couldn't access different facilities because he didn't have accreditation. That accreditation was given to these third parties. So that in itself is a serious issue of corruption. Forget about you paying for the rate. Just the mere fact that you have decided to put your uncle or your brother or your cousin, that is serious, because in itself, that is the list that will go to the embassy of Brazil. That is the list that will effectively facilitate your visa. So you'll actually, while you are in Brazil, you'll be known as you're part of Kenyan delegation. Now that in itself, if you're not seeing anything wrong with that, Honorable Manje, there is something wrong.
No, I am saying this, all right? If, for example, Bronweke, you want to go with your family, all right? Because you are entitled, you can go with your family if you choose. And this is a group that is going to another country. What normally happens, you can write a list to the embassy of the Kenyans who will be on that side, all right? She will be in the trip, but she's not being paid by the organization that you are working for. For example, the person from the media, all right? He was in the list because at the end of the day, they want a journalist from Kenya. All right, but that one, if the main idea of putting him in the list is to notify the embassy that will have somebody from Royal Media attending, that is correct. The problem would be if Stephen Soy paid for that and Royal Media paid for the same flight. That is where the mistake is, and that is why I'm saying it should be investigated and know why the two organizations has to pay for the same trip. Of course, the Directorate of Criminal Investigation is already on this matter. They're investigating, and as you can see, a number of NOC officials have already been taken into custody. So this will definitely continue opening up. In a few days' time, we'll know whether we're going on or not. In a few moments, we will be discussing politics. Of course, you saw what happened to CS Eugene Wamalwa. Well, he tried to address a crowd yesterday at the City Stadium. And of course, there's talk of a super coalition being fronted by ODM leader Raila Odinga. We'll be discussing that and a lot more after this short break.